Google Chrome slash Safari, all implement this ECMAScript standard, which basically means यहाँ पे कुछ smart लोग बैठे हैं. There are some smart people sitting over here that say कि यार console.log whenever it is written and some hi there is written over here, that should print hi there on the screen. And then all of these developers implement this. In the future, the guys at ECMAScript might say, yeah, we are adding a new functionality. This functionality is, whatever, a new data type. We have, I don't know, like structs now. Right now we have objects in JavaScript, we have arrays. If these guys want, they can introduce a new concept, and then everyone over here needs to implement that concept. For example, someone recently tweeted, I did not, but if you guys remember promises, these were also introduced in 2015. If you remember in a class, I said, okay, until my second year, I did not know promises existed. And the reason was until my second year, promises weren't even introduced. They were introduced when I was in my second year. So in 2015, these guys introduced promises. And then the browsers were like, "Theek hai bhai, add this functionality here, here, and here." These guys added it to the V8 engine. These guys will, of course, add it to their runtime. Google Chrome added it to the V8 engine. Safari folks added it to JavaScript core, so on and so forth. This is why people say don't use Internet Explorer, because no one is maintaining the JavaScript engine over there. This is why you will see a lot of these, for example, promises, not promises, but like more and more newer ECMAScript standards are not implemented by Internet Explorer. So whenever you go to, search for any function, for example, let's say set timeout, it might say that this is not compatible with Internet Explorer 9 or 11, because Internet Explorer never added this functionality. For those of you who don't know, Internet Explorer was a very old browser by Microsoft. I don't think it's maintained anymore. Microsoft moved over to Edge. All right, a lot of high-level talk. We'll be getting to the code very soon. But do you understand JavaScript runtime? Some interview questions. Why is JavaScript runtime different from browser runtime? And Node.js runs on the back end. Some JavaScript runs on the front end. Great. Sort of understand it. 90%. 88%. We will proceed, but I will take doubts at the end. A lot of this is high level abstract. Harkirat professor is teaching in school and we don't understand anything. Let's write some code. When you write some code, when you see it running locally, you might get a little more confidence. Let's understand how can you start a Node.js project locally now, not on Replit. Forget Replit exists. From now on, we are going to write all of our code on our own machine. So let's kick things off by initializing a Node.js project. If you are ever initializing a Java project, a Python project, steps remain very similar. All of these require you to run some commands first before you can start to write the code. The thing to do in case of Node.js is this command right here, npm init-y. For a few of you, this will work. For the people who have not installed Node.js, this will not work. So for the people who have not installed Node.js, you can still go to Replit. Let me take you through the steps once. Go to REPL.it, click on create REPL, and select Node.js over here. And whatever code we are writing, you can write over here. But I would urge you by the end of, before the next class, have Node.js installed on your machine. And trust me, no one can help you here. You can ping a T and they will probably oblige. But this is something you need to debug yourself locally and figure out. By the end of it, your terminal should have node as a command. When you run node, it should say something like this. Welcome to Node.js, this thing. When you exit out, it should exit. Locally, when you run npm, it should give you contents that look like this. If it says npm does not exist, it means you haven't installed Node.js correctly. So make sure you're installing Node.js correctly on your machine. How can you do it? Google it. There are various ways to do it. All right. Let's start a Node.js project locally. Initialize an empty Node.js project by doing this. Hopefully, some of you have gone through the bash class. So, don't blindly run this in the root folder of your terminal. If I run this over here, if I run npm init-y over here, it will initialize a Node.js project in my root folder, in this root folder of mine, which has so many things. I don't want that. I want a fresh folder. I want to create a new folder, Harkirat class Node.js. Inside this, I want to initialize my Node.js project. So make sure you're first creating a new folder. For example, Harkirat class Node. Make sure you are going into that folder in your terminal. Harkirat, how can I go into a folder? By running this command, right? cd harkirat class node. We discussed this in the bash video. If you did not go through the bash video, this will be a little hard. And lastly, the command to run is npm init dash y. When you run this command, you should see contents like this. If you don't see contents like this, if you see npm does not exist or something like that, don't worry for the class. Please go to replit, create a new node.js file or a node.js REPL, and you will see similar contents here. Whatever other people see on their local machine, you will see over here. So don't worry if you're not able to run it locally just now. For the people who were able to run it, please open this in Visual Studio Code. For some people, you can run the command code space dot, and that should automatically open it. For other people like me who don't have this setup, you will have to go to Visual Studio Code, file, open, paste, the specific folder, which in my case is Harkirat class node, and open it. Create a fresh index.js file over here. That is one extra thing you have to do. What did I do? There is already this package.json file that exists over here. I added a index.js file right next to it. For the people who are on Replit, you will see something similar. You will see package.json over here, index.js over here. So you are at the same state as other people. Don't worry if this doesn't work for you locally just yet. We're done with step 1 over here. Take a minute to do it yourself, or maybe like 30 seconds are good enough, I think. To recap, the steps are: create a fresh folder on your machine. You can do it from the terminal if you want, or you can go, completely raw and do it like this. Open a folder, right click, new folder, class, open class, or whatever this folder is. And inside this, run npm init dash y. How do you do this? Go to your terminal, npm init dash y. That is how you initialize an empty Node.js project. And this does nothing other than creating this empty file over here. So not empty file, like slightly pre-filled file. This file was created when I ran npm init dash y. If you don't want to run this command, you can initialize this file yourself. So that command that you saw does nothing other than creating this file for you. This is an important file in case of Node.js. Again, every language has these files. In case of Rust, it's called a cargo.toml file. In case of Rust, it is called a cargo.toml file. In case of Python, I am not sure on this. It has a requirements.txt, which probably has some things from here. But you get the idea. Java also has it, which I'm completely forgetting the name. Who will tell me here? Oh God, this is from 5 years ago. Java also has such a file. What is the name of that file that has all your dependencies? Maven? .xml, maven.xml, main, pom.xml, something like this. Yeah. So all languages have, this file, which is a special init file. What do I mean by init file? I mean, init is not the right word. It's like a config file, a configuration file. If you look at the fields over here, what does it say? It says that the name of this project is Harkirat class node. We will see later where this name comes. You can name this whatever you want, let's say to do app backend or something else. Version. This will become important. This will come when we reach the external packages section. For now, feel free to ignore. Or you can think of it like when you're writing your code. For example, you write function sum a comma b, return a plus b. Let me turn off AI here. When you've written some basic version 1 of your code, you will set this to 1.0.0. Then let's say you added another function here called multiply. Then you can rename this to 1.0.1, let's say. Then you made some more changes, rename it to 1.0.2, so on and so forth. Harkirat, why 1.0.2? What is this first section? What is this second section? What is this third section? We will come to by the end of the class. There is a slide that explains this. But there is a reason we don't go version 1, version 2, version 3. We have these 3 sections. We'll later understand what these 3 sections mean. Main represents what is your main file, which in our case is index.js. This will also come in later. All 3 of these will come when we understand about external dependencies. If you're writing a simple application locally, For you, it does not matter at all what you give, what name you give, what version you give, what main file you give. When you are deploying this to npm, I repeat, when you are deploying this to the npm registry, which don't worry if you don't understand what this is, but when you do this, we'll later understand what the npm registry is, and what are external packages. When we understand that, we'll understand the use case of these three things. For your local application, it doesn't matter. This is why until now, when I wrote any JavaScript code, I did not introduce a package.json file, right? जितनी भी बार मैंने code लिखा है अभी तक, how many times we've written code locally, we did not introduce this file. Now we are introducing this file because this is not a simple index.js code that we are writing. We are writing a whole package, and hence the name package.json. This scripts section is important. If I open a few open source code bases now, you will see this is the most populated section. Let me quickly show you, a random repository if I can find it. If you go to code100x/cms, amongst the many files that exist, and I know this is super overwhelming, but notice there is a package.json file. If I open this package.json file, notice the scripts section has so many scripts. So this is an important section. This scripts section represents, as the name suggests, it lets you add a bunch of scripts. What does a script mean, Harkirat? It basically means that whatever you put over here, let's say I put start over here, and I say that whenever the start script runs, run node index.js. I repeat, I say that I have a start script now, and whenever the user runs the start script, this thing should run. What happens is, if I save this file, a lot of people will miss this. VS Code, when you're writing JavaScript code, you forget to save the file. How do you know you haven't saved the file? You will see a red gola, white, circle over here. So make sure you're saving the file. I have saved the file. Now, if I run npm run start, I repeat, if I'm in the right folder, okay, for the people who don't know how to open the terminal, click on terminal, click on new terminal over here. That will open the terminal for you. And then if I want to run this JavaScript file, which right now does nothing, let me do a console.log sum of 1, 2. If I want to run this file, I can run node index.js, or I can run npm run start. It also outputs the same thing. Look at the logs. It says when you are starting this, I am going to run node index.js. So what does this script section do? Okay, यहाँ पे you can add multiple scripts. Let me add a start to script, which also does the same thing. Let's say index.js. Now, if I run npm run start 2, what do you think happens? Same thing happens, right? Because start 2 also points to the same code. What if I do npm run start 3? It says missing script start 3. What if I add a start 3 script? Now it runs. So hopefully we understand what this script section does. You can name this anything if you want. You can do a npm run Kirat now. But of course, you should give it more understandable names. For example, here there is post install, which basically means this should run after you have run npm install. Don't worry about what that is. Dev script, build script, start script, test script, a bunch of other scripts. You should give them descriptive names and nothing random. But it's not necessary कि आपको start ही लिखना है यहाँ पे, या build ही लिखना है. You can write whatever you want. Cool. All right. Keywords, author, license, description. These 4 are just metadata. These also you don't worry about unless you are deploying your package to the npm registry. I repeat, I keep saying this, deploying an external package to the npm registry. We will come to what this is. But yes, all 4 of these and all 3 of these become more important when you deploy your code to the npm registry. Until you are doing that, doesn't really matter. This section is the most important one. And another section called the dependencies section, which you will be getting to very soon. I repeat, what are the 2 sections that are important? The script section right here, the dependency section that we will eventually understand. Cool. Anything else in this slide? No, nothing else to discuss. To recap, when you run npm init-y, it initializes a package.json file for you. It has a bunch of fields here. The name field is the name of your website. It doesn't matter, name it whatever you want. Version is as you incrementally make your code better and better, You should increase this version. When should you increase this? When should you increase this? And when should you increase this? We will come to eventually. Main, what is the main starter file of your code? Scripts, all the developer specified scripts. The developer changes these to, add something, whatever they want. For example, in our case, we added a start script over here and a bunch of extra metadata keywords. Cool. Done with starting a Node.js project. Let's get into npm and what it does. Before that, I would assume this was fairly simple, but let me do a quick poll. Are we good to go, guys? Shall we get to the npm registry, the npm CLI that we have locally, and how to use it? Great. 92% understand. I think that's a decent enough number for us to move forward. Again, I'm available at the end for doubts. The full form of npm is the Node Package Manager. The name itself says package manager. It is managing some packages of Node. What are packages? Do you remember I kept on saying external dependencies? That is what a package over here means. It is a package manager for JavaScript. Golang has a package manager. Rust has a package manager. Every language that you see usually has this thing. Even Java has a package manager. Again, I'm forgetting the name, but I've used it. It lets you get external dependencies in your code base. What are external dependencies? You will get to. But again, reading through this, it is a package manager for JavaScript, primarily used for managing libraries and dependencies in the Node.js project. It is primarily used for managing libraries and dependencies. When we say libraries, when we say dependencies, when I say external packages, all three mean the same thing. npm Node Package Manager, even, the P over here, package. Think of all four of these as the same thing: a package, a library, a dependency, or an external, whatever I said, external package only I said. npm allows developers to easily install, update, and manage these packages. Node Package Manager. What is a Node Package Manager supposed to do? It is supposed to manage packages, manage reusable code, manage external dependencies. Let's see, what do you use npm for? One, do you use it for this? Even though the name itself says Node Package Manager, it is used for more than just package management. इसमें हमने कोई package management नहीं करी है. In this specific, line of code, npm init or npm init -y, we don't do any package management. But npm lets you do this as well. Even though the name is Node Package Manager, it lets you do other things. It can be a node manager as well. It lets you manage your, code base. It is not necessarily only for, package management. This is the section that actually, this is what I mean when I say external packages / package management. But it also lets you initialize. You can also run scripts like this, like we've been running. So npm lets you do multiple things. The one that we are focusing on here is this one: npm install chalk. What is chalk, Harkirat? Chalk is the very first external library that we are introducing. We kept on saying packages, libraries, dependencies. This is a dependency I'm introducing to my project. Harkirat, what is a dependency? It is some reusable code that some other smart developer has written. I am bringing it to my code base. I repeat, there is some smart person out in the world that wrote this chalk library, and I want to use this chalk library in my, Node.js code base. So I want to, do something like this: const chalk equal to require chalk. I cannot do that in my Node.js code unless I install this dependency, unless I bring this code locally to my machine. That is what this npm install chalk command does. Let's try to run it locally. Notice the folder structure before I run it. There is an index.js file. There is a package.json file. Nothing, more complicated over here. But when I run npm install chalk, which for the, people on Replit, you can run it over here. Go to console. Oh, sorry, go to shell and click on npm. You run the same thing, npm install chalk. People on Replit will run it here. Locally, I will run it here. What does it say? Added one package. It added an external package to my code base. If you notice here, there is a new folder called Node Modules created, which has a library called, or a folder called chalk, which has, its source code, its index.js file, so on and so forth. Chalk itself has its own package.json. I repeat, I have my own package.json. Ignore this package lock.json file that came. Ignore this for now. We'll come later on to what this is. We had package.json and index.js. I ran this command, and here comes the chalk library locally to my machine. Now I can use this chalk library in my code base. I can write const chalk equal to require chalk. And let me just log this chalk variable for now. Nothing too fancy. Again, make sure you're saving your file. Make sure that you don't see a square, circle over here. npm run start. Huh, we cannot use require. Let's see. This is going to be a little bit of a headache. Wait, why can I not use require here? It requires node index.js. Instead, it's requiring this thing to. We cannot use import. I also don't want to use import here. Let's see. Chalk npm registry. Now I'm doing some live debugging in front of you. I'm looking at the, you know, page of this chalk library. Whenever you install any external library, you can see it somewhere on not GitHub in this case. In this case, the npm registry. I just came to this npm registry. What is the npm registry, Harkirat? A place where people register their external packages. If you create your own external package in the future, you can also deploy it over here. The chalk library, this is what their page looks like. Slash let's see, how can you add it to JavaScript? I want to avoid introducing ES6 to the class right now, but yep. Okay. What can we do here? Also, why does this not work to begin with? We'll take a small break, 1 minute break before we proceed. So you can do a few things here. One thing you can do is you can make this an index.mjs file and run index.mjs with what is that called? MJS experimental modules. That's probably the easiest way to start this locally right now. MJS experimental modules. That doesn't work either. Oh, sorry, with an import. So let's go here, copy this. Oh, sorry, wrong file. All right. Do one thing for me for a while. Slowly we'll understand and debug what this issue was. This specific library works on a slightly more modern syntax of JavaScript. Now you can make JavaScript work with this modern syntax as well by making some changes to package.json here. We are not doing that. We are taking a slightly different approach for this library. There will be other libraries that we introduce eventually where you don't have to do this. But for now, for using this chalk library right here, rather than creating an index.js file, create an index.mjs file. I repeat, create an index.mjs file. And over here, rather than requiring chalk like this, rather than using this syntax for requiring chalk, use a different syntax, this more modern import syntax that was introduced in a, if you remember, I said initially, JavaScript keeps on becoming better and better over the years. As years go by, promises were introduced. And similarly, as years went by, this slightly more modern syntax was introduced. And to be able to run this locally without touching the package.json at all, what you can do is, rather than having an index.js file, have an index.mjs file. where the only thing that's different is this import. All the rest of the code can still be the same. So if I look at the rest of the code, let me copy this rest of the code and paste it over here. What does it do? It's similar to console.log. This library that you see over here, chalk, it just lets you log things in a slightly more pretty fashion, which is exactly what is happening over here. If I run this, you will see hello world gets printed in the blue color. This is a error message gets printed in the red color and is bold over here. The third one gets printed in the green color and has underline. That is what you see over here. The only difference is, the only new thing is, rather than doing const fs equal to require fs, what have we done? We have used this other syntax over here, which, if you're using TypeScript, you don't have to do any of this, dash dash experimental modules or MJS logic. But over here, we will have to do it unless we, make some changes to package.json. Cool. So what have we done? Number one, I installed an external package onto my machine. I ran the command npm install chalk, which brought an external package to my machine. Where can I read more about this external package, Harkirat? I can read more about this external package over here on npmjs.com slash package slash chalk. These guys have written, some helper, whatever, syntax for you. You import chalk like this. And if you print this, it will probably print hello in the blue color, world normally, and exclamation in the red color. So you can look at the documentation of this library and how you can use this locally. Most of the important functions will be listed over here. If they are not, then there are other ways to figure out what this library does specifically. You can go through the library code base and try to read through all the functions. But most of the important functions will be given on this page of this library. This npm registry has thousands of probably millions of libraries. Chalk is one of many libraries that exists over here. There's Express, which is a library we'll slowly be understanding about. There is bunch of these body parser, escape, HTML. All of these, if you look at it, are one of many external dependencies that you can bring to your code base. All of them do something, and on their npm page you can read how can you require that specific module, how can you use it over here. Cool. Do we understand the concept of external packages? Again, this is not just in JavaScript. Any language, Java, Python, Rust, will have this concept of external modules. Why do you use them? So that you don't have to write this code. You can write this code yourself as well. You can write the code that actually prints the thing in blue slash red slash underline or green. But it's easy for you to just use the work that other people have done. It is easy for you to just bring their code base locally. If you really look at it, this node module slash chalk slash index.js will have all of this code that actually, prints the color in blue slash underlines the file, so on and so forth. So you will find all of the code that actually does this over here. Chalk as a library itself is also open source. So if you go to, their npm page, you can see there's a link to their GitHub page. If you go to the GitHub page, you can actually look at their code base over here. If you want, you can contribute to their code base. You get the idea. This library is open source on GitHub. This is them finally distributing it out on npm so people can bring their library locally and use it. Do we understand the concept of npm, the CLI, and its most important use case, which is installing external packages locally? Let me do a quick poll. Can we proceed to the next section of internal packages versus external packages? 88%. Let me look at Q&A. It's sort of a break time. Let's take a small 2-minute break. Let me look at Q&A. Any specific question that led to 88%, which isn't great? Got error while doing import chalk from chalk. Are you running it the right way? The way I'm running it locally, which is node dash dash experimental modules index.mjs. Are you sure the mjs file has your latest code that uses the import syntax? Which MERN DevOps project will be done in class? Is there any Figma project overview? There is one for job board. Just go to the job board repo. You'll find a Figma over there. The way I ran the MGS code is by running this specific command over here. Chalk isn't working for me. If it is not working for you, we'll go to a different module. Chalk specifically, enforces. I'm sure actually there might be a way to run this in before ES6 as well, or using the require syntax as well. That is what I was trying to find over here. But then in that, if it doesn't work for you, then Chalk is the weird library that you might have to spend some time trying to fix locally for JavaScript. It'll work like this for TypeScript, but specifically for JavaScript, I'm trying to basically find the same thing that you want. Okay, how can I make it work in an older version of JavaScript, or using the older syntax? And I usually all the libraries will if they are using this more modern import syntax, they will somewhere specify this is how you can make it run in the older version of JavaScript, but these guys don't, which is why some of you might be facing this locally. Uh, all right. Recap. Very quick recap, then we will proceed. Quick recap is any library that you see all around the world, be it any language, be it Java, C, Rust, Golang, they will have this concept of external modules. Um, if you've written any C++ code, you've written, whatever, hashtag include stdio.h, right? It's basically importing code from somewhere else. If you have used uh, whatever, what is this called? Rust, you've probably use Actix web or something like that. Brought an external module to your own code base. I don't even remember how it's done in Java, but most languages have this concept of an external module. In case of JavaScript, this is how you install this external module locally, and this is how you can use Chalk specifically. Every language, or every library will have its own set of syntax. All right, cool. Let's proceed to internal versus external package. Hopefully, you can just guess this. What is an internal package? A package that Node.js provides you out of the box. For example, the FS library. Until now, we have used the FS library a lot. We have used const fs equal to require fs, and we have done fs.read file a.txt, and then some function over here, if you remember, error comma data, console.log data. We have done this many times. Hopefully you see this code and you understand what's happening here. But remember, did we ever have to do npm install fs? Did we ever do npm install fs? No. Why? Because this comes bundled inside JavaScript. You don't have to externally install it. There are some things that JavaScript or Node.js people thought is core to Node.js, file system access being one of them. So they said इसके लिए external library की कोई जरूरत नहीं है. You don't have to bring in an external library. We will provide you this out of the box. This is an internal package. You don't have to run npm install fs, just like you had to run npm install chalk. Cool. That is what this internal package, or that is what they mean when they say an internal package. That is exactly what is mentioned in this slide over here, which is Node.js provides you some packages out of the box, which means out of the box is a very weird term here. In the box, in the Node.js library. Some common ones include fs for doing some file system manipulation. Path is another library that you don't really need for most use cases, but becomes handy sometimes. HTTP is a library that we'll come to very soon tomorrow, which also Node.js provides you out of the box, which basically means it comes bundled with Node.js. We have used the fs package many times now. Specifically, this code that you see over here also uses this path package, which provides you a bunch of functions. One of them being it lets you join multiple strings together or multiple paths together. Here again, underscore name might feel very confusing to a few people. This is a global variable you get access to in Node.js that prints the current library directory that you are in. For example, if I go to my index.js file now, let me rename index.mjs back to index.js. And here, let me run, console.log underscore dir name. And if I run node index.js, notice it prints /users /Harkirat Singh /Harkirat class node. So underscore dir name is a variable that you have access to in the Node.js runtime that will print कि अभी तुम कौन सी directory में थे, which directory were you in when you started this command. And similarly, if I do a const path equal to require path and then do console.log path.join underscore dir name, comma, let's say, index.js, then what does it print? prints slash users slash Harkirat Singh slash Harkirat class node slash index.js. So this path dot join, as the name suggests, lets you join multiple paths together. Harkirat, can I not do this plus slash index.js? Yes, you can do this. They will both print the same thing. But the good thing about this path library is it lets you join multiple uh, subdirectories, future directories, slash projects, slash index.js. You know, in a it resolves all of these. It resolves the path to the simplest form. That's the best way I can put it. Here, if I write the same code over here, I can totally do this. Okay, go back a folder and then go to slash projects and then go to slash index.js. But what does the path dot join function let you do? It resolves this dot slash dot slash. If you look at the final print, it does not have dot slash. It has resolved where this leads to. What do you mean where this leads to, Harkirat? I mean, what was this? This was slash users slash Harkirat Singh slash Harkirat dash class dash node. I repeat, this is what underscore underscore their name was. What does dot slash mean? It means go back a folder, go over here, go back a folder, go over here. So it takes out both of these folders, takes out the string, then adds slash index.js slash projects slash index.js, which is why that is what you see over here. Now, this isn't a relevant path, but you get the idea. Okay. This library, the path library, will convert this string into the simplest form versus if you're just doing simple string concatenation, it'll keep concatenating the string. Also, if you look over here, there is a bug. Harkirat class node ke baad I forgot to put a slash. I forgot to put a slash over here. But in case of the path library, it automatically added the slash wherever it was needed. This path isn't incorrect. This path is incorrect. So that is why you might want to use this path library. You don't need it. You can totally, do simple string concatenation as well. All right. Third library we will understand tomorrow, but there are many, such internal packages. And similarly, there are external packages, which we already saw, the chalk library, which is written by some other people, is not part of the Node.js runtime, and you bring it locally to your machine by running the command npm install chalk or whatever it might be. Cool. Let's see if this has something extra. No, this has semantic versioning format next, which before we go there, let's do a quick poll. Do we understand internal versus external packages? I would assume it's straightforward and you understood it in jiffy, but I could be wrong. Let's see. Do we understand this? Let's get into some more slightly, extra things that are good to know. Okay. 91% is great. Some extra things that are good to know, which again, as I said, we wouldn't even cover this in cohort 2, but I'm calling them out specially or specifically in cohort 3. So that, helps out everyone. When I ran npm install chalk, I got the dependency locally. Whenever that happens, whenever you bring an external dependency locally, that gets added here to package.json. Does this look a little different now? Does it have something extra? It has this section right here, dependencies. Whenever you add a dependency to your code base, that dependency gets added to this dependencies section right here. There are various reasons for this. Reason number one is that you can now keep track of all of your dependencies in a single place. यहाँ पे clearly उसने लिख दिया कि chalk is a dependency to this specific code. The biggest reason for this, and let me give you a small hint here, is that node modules is a very chunky folder. It's a very big folder. There's a very famous meme that looks like this: node modules earth meme. Let's see if we can find it. There you go. It says the heaviest object in the universe: sun, neutron star, black hole, and node modules. So the joke is that node modules becomes very heavy very quickly. For example, let me add another module here, npm install express, that we'll discuss very soon what this is. But when I do this, can you see it says added 64 packages? Harkirat, you to added only one package. How were 64 packages introduced? The answer is that Express also depends on a few things. I repeat, if I go to Node.js, Now look at it. How many dependencies are there? There are 65 dependencies. Didn't it become very fat, just like your? Why did it become so fat? It became fat because this Express library also has a package.json, which, if you look at it, has some contributors, some description, some name, but more specifically has its own set of dependencies. So this is dependency hell. I just installed Express, but unfortunately, Express has so many dependencies. So they also got installed over here. This accepts might have its own set of dependencies. Let's see. Let me go to this accepts slash package.json, and it also has a bunch of dependencies. We'll come to what dependencies and dev dependencies is high level. The things that you need while your code is running is put here, and dev dependencies is the things that you need only during development. What is during development we'll come to, but think of these two sections as similar. Okay, these are the things that this guy depends on. That is why they say no modules is very heavy. So do you think when you're pushing your code to GitHub, I repeat, when you're pushing your code to GitHub, should you push this node modules folder? Let's see. Let's open any code base over here. Let's open this random code base called CMS. Do you see a node modules folder over here? I don't. Let me open daily code. Do you see a node modules folder over here? No. You might see it in some person's library, but that is bad. You might see the node modules folder here itself. Whenever someone commits their node modules folder, it is a very bad thing. Why? Because they don't have to commit this. They don't have to push this to GitHub. They just have to push this much. This much, if you put, then whoever is using your code can simply run npm install. I repeat, if I delete this complete folder, if I start from clean slate, all I have to do is run npm install, and that will automatically understand कि अच्छा इसके dependencies में chalk and express is present. So it will automatically bring chalk, express, and everything else over here. So what are we learning from this? We are learning that whenever you install an external dependency, npm install, I don't know, what is a good external library to install? Let's see. Ethers. Whenever I run npm install ethers, it gets added here. It also gets added to package.json in this dependencies section. Why is that done? So that if you ever get rid of your node modules folder by mistake, or if you're ever pushing your code to GitHub, all you have to push is this. If you want to share this code with a friend, you don't have to give them the heavy folder called node modules. You can simply give them these 3 files on their machine. If I share this code with you, अगर मैंने ये code आपको दे दिया अभी, then all you have to do is run npm install. You don't have to give it a dependency. You have to simply run npm install. When you run npm install, this specific CLI will go over here, understand you have 3 dependencies, and bring them to your local machine. So that is the benefit of having this dependencies section. It lets you maintain all the dependencies that you have. And whenever you're sharing code with anyone, be it pushing to GitHub or giving it to your friend who lives in your hostel, let's say, you should not give them node modules. You should just give them this. Just your source code is good enough. On their machine, all they have to do is run npm install, and they will have the same set of dependencies on their machine. Let's see how many of us understand this part. It's an important thing to know. We understand you don't commit your node modules to GitHub. You only have them locally, and you have them in. Okay, great. We understand this. But beautiful. So the question really is, what are these versions, Harkeerat? And the answer is Chalk, Ethers, Express are all libraries, which means, they keep on getting better and better as time goes by. When they get better, they increase their version. So right now I'm saying give me 5.3.0 version, or specifically, this tilde over here, or whatever this sign is, means something else. But I'm saying yeah, ये version दे दो मुझे 5.3.0. In the future, these guys might introduce a new feature or a new version. Then I can just update this. Okay, now give me this version. Now give me this version. Then I can simply run npm install, and that will install that specific version of Chalk. Question is, what are these 3 sections? When does this get increased? When does this get increased? When does this get increased? In the future, you might become a library maintainer. You might have your own library. So you should understand when you need to bump this version, when you need to bump this version, when you need to bump this version. The answer is These section represent major minor patch. I think you could have guessed it. Okay, express 6 will be introduced whenever some new very big thing comes to express. React 17 got introduced, React 19 got introduced, very big announcements come. जब भी React का major version changes, whenever React changes from 18 to 19, whenever there is a very big major version change that happens in that means you bump up this first version, the major version changes indicates a significant update or breaking changes. What does breaking changes means? KR, if you were using the, whatever, let's say 5.3.0 version of Chalk, that is fine. Keep using it. Let's change this back to some Chalk code. Ah, const, whatever, import Chalk from Chalk, and then whatever that code was. Whenever this major version changes, if you move to 6, it might have a breaking change. What does breaking change means? Kya red is no longer a version, it is dark red. The red function does not exist only. So if you are ever bumping up this major version, you should check okay, what has changed in this library. Have they made a breaking change? What is the breaking change? How can I migrate from 5th version to the 6th version of the Chalk library? So whenever this version changes, if you ever have your own library and you're adding a breaking change, you're adding a lot of very important features, you bump up the major version. If you are changing some small things, then you bump up the minor version. If you are fixing some bugs on a day-to-day basis, then you change this patch version. That is why it's called patch over here. Major version changes when there is a significant update. Minor version changes when there is addition of a new feature or improvement in a backward compatible manner. If you are updating this, minor version ever to 4 to 5, you don't have to worry about the code. It can look exactly the same. It will work. Hopefully, depends on the developer of the library. The developer of the library might only bump up the patch version, but might have some, breaking changes over here. So you can hope the developer of the library does not add breaking changes when they're bumping up this or this, but you never know. Depends on the maintainer of the library, right? This is hoped कि हाँ अगर ये चेंज हुआ तो backward compatible change होगा, but it might happen कि the developer of the library doesn't makes a breaking change. When they have changed this, one to very big announcements happen everywhere. React 15 has been introduced, Next.js 19 has been introduced, Next 13 has been introduced. But more than that, there might be backward incompatible changes. It might not be backward compatible. There is one more thing. If you remember, we added this, this sign over here. This sign means npm will install any version that is compatible with 5.3.0, but less than 6. So basically means it might install 5.3.1, 5.4.0, 5.4.1, 5.4.2, 5.5.0. It will not install this 6th version. Any compatible version that it can find, which, that is why you usually do this. You usually write, if you look at it, when you run npm install randomly on your machine, it adds these dependencies with this sign over here because it says कि यार 5.3.0 भी ठीक है, कल को 1 आ गया तो वो भी ठीक है, कल को 2 आ गया तो वो भी ठीक है. All of these versions are fine. When you have this tilde, Node.js will ensure कि अगर 6 आ गया, right? If there is a 6 version on npm, it will not bring that locally. I repeat, if you have tilde over here, then the reason this is done is, okay, let's say today I start this project. I repeat, today I start this project. Today I run npm install Chalk. Today I get this specific version over here. Now let's say tomorrow the developer introduced the new function 5.3.2. I would want that, right? It is backward compatible. I want the latest changes locally. But tomorrow क्या करूंगा मैं? Will I go over here and delete this and then do a reinstall of Chalk so that I see 5.3.2 here? No. Since I have this, variable over here, whenever I delete node modules and whenever I reinstall, do an npm install, वो खुद ब खुद लेटेस्ट वर्जन ले आएगा या बेटर वर्जन ले आएगा because I have added this sign over here. If I don't add this sign, then it will bring the exact version. If I have written 5.3.2 it will bring exactly 5.3.2. We can check that. Let me delete node modules here. Let me run npm install. It says 5.3.2 तो अवेलेबल ही नहीं है भाई. ठीक है जी. Let me try 4.3.2. ये भी अवेलेबल नहीं है. Let's go to their page, their npm page. Let's look at their versions. They have 5.3.0. They have 5.1.2. Let me add 5.1.2 here. What happens when I run npm install now? What do I see here? The chalk library ka package.json. The chalk library ka package.json has version 5.1.2 because that is the exact version that I pinned to. But if I do this, this sign 5.1.2, then it can be any version. It might be 5.1.2, it might be a different version. It will not be 6 for sure. Run npm install now. Let's see what comes. Chalk. I should actually delete package lock. See the actual results here. I will come to what package lock is, but I've deleted it for now. Ran npm install. And now let's see what version of chalk came. 5.3.0 came. Even though, what did I say in package.json? I said 5.1.2. Why did 5.3.0 come? Because this is the latest version. And I did not say कि मुझे यही चाहिए. I said anything that is in the 5 range. As long as it starts with 5, I will take it. And I got the more latest version, which is 5.3.0. I did not pin it. If I would have pinned it, if I would have said this, then of course I would have gotten 5.3.0. This leads to a problem though. Let me see if we're done with everything and we can then discuss what that problem is. There's one more thing called latest, which basically means get me the latest version of this library. All right. Cool. All right. From first principles, actually, let's do a poll first. Do we understand semantic versioning? And what, why is it used? Hopefully it's easy to understand. If you have your own library, then also you should follow semantic versioning and make sure you don't have backward incompatible changes. All right. What problem can arise when you are doing this? Can you tell me this? Okay. Whenever you're using this tilde or whatever this is called, whenever you're using this, what problem can arise if you have multiple developers on the team? Can there be a problem that arises? Okay, sorry, I close this too quickly because someone asked something. Oh God, guys, you should ask class questions related to the class. Okay. A few more things. Different versions. Someone said breaking code. Someone said it's called a carrot. Thank you. It is not called a tilde. It is called a carrot. That's what I was looking for. Multiple version conflicts, different dev versions, different developer, different code. That's, long story short. Different developers will get different code. People did not know this slash realize how big of a problem this can become for the longest time. Eventually, people realized, and this lock file was introduced. As you saw, as I'm running npm install, this lock file gets generated automatically. What is the goal of this lock file? It pins a version over here. I repeat, it pins a version over here. What does version pinning mean? It means that you asked for anything greater than 5.1.2. I have pinned it to 5.3.0. Now, every developer who is running npm install locally, let's say you share this code with your friend and they run npm install locally, they will get the exact version 5.3.0. What does lock here mean? We are locking various versions. तुमने तो यहाँ पे कुछ भी लिख दिया. You were super ambiguous when you added the carrot. When you added the carrot over here, you were super ambiguous. Package lock removes the ambiguity so that number one, सबसे बड़ी चलो छोटी चीज तो ये है कि locally if you run something, locally when I run npm install and your friend runs npm install, both of you get the same version of the chalk library. ऐसा नहीं है कि you get 5.3.0, the other person gets 5.2.0 because we have been very ambiguous here. We have said anything more than 5.1.2, less than 6 is fine. Package lock.json makes sure कि यार ठीक है यहाँ पे जो भी लिखा हो, this is the version we are locking to for now. Eventually this might change, but for now we have locked ourselves to 5.3.0. The bigger reason this is better is because you might have 10 developers on the team. Everyone is like, code is working for us. And then you deploy this on the server, you deploy this to production. And over there, a different version of chalk gets introduced. Over there, a different version of chalk is present, which your server breaks. And no one knows why. Everyone says, yeah, it's working on my machine. It is not working on the server. And the answer is because on the server, let's say, 5.1.3 got installed, and for everyone locally 5.3.0 got installed. So to make sure everyone has the same version, this package dash lock.json has gets auto generated. And now as long as you have both of these files locally, when you're running npm install, even though it has many options to choose from, it will only lock itself to this specific option. That is why this package dash lock.json is introduced. In one of my old companies, there was a very big conflict. Okay, should you commit this to GitHub or not? Should the lock file be committed to GitHub or not? Because it has a lot of auto-generated code. So, if a developer adds a small dependency, this file becomes huge. If I add Express over here, then, look at this file now. It became so big. I just added one Express module, but that added a bunch of modules. So it had to pin this bytes library, this call bind library, so on and so forth. So this file became very big. The conflict in my company was कि ऐसे तो someone will only add a dependency and get so much contributor contributions. So we should not lock. But ideally, what do you think the answer is? Should you have this committed to GitHub? Should you be pushing your lock files to GitHub? The answer is yes. If you look at it in daily code, we don't have package lock. We have yarn.log because we enforce yarn as the package manager here. Don't worry about what yarn is. We'll come to eventually. But if you look at CMS, you'll find package lock somewhere here. And yes, you should always commit this to GitHub. You should always pull this on your server so that whatever dependencies are present on the server, same dependencies you have locally. If there are 100 developers that are all, getting their code from here, all of them should have the same lock file locally. All right. That is the benefit of using the lock file. That was the next, this thing over here. Hopefully that's clear. With that, can we now start to write some code? I think I've spoken a little too much. It's time for you guys to write some code and help me debug what is wrong with this code over here. Before the class, I was thinking of a few assignments slash, what is a good external dependency to bring to your code base. One such external dependency that you'll find, very commonly in various languages, or one use case is creating a CLI of your own. I repeat, creating a command line interface of your own. Here, what is a command line interface? NPM is a CLI. Whatever. PWD is a command line. It lets you interface with the command line. It lets you do something using the command line. So I want to create something similar. When you do ls or whatever cd, you give it something extra right next to it, right? You say cd dot slash whatever cd class or cd project slash cms. So you run a command, you give it some arguments. How can you create something similar in Node.js? How can I write node index.js? Argument one is projects slash cms slash something. CLIs also, usually give you uh, a bunch of this helper text. If I run node space dash h, it gives me its usage. Yeah, this is how you can use node. If I run node space dash h, this command line interface gives me a bunch of helper functions. Here you can run node space some options space the name of your script space a bunch of arguments. These are the commonly available flags that you have. So most CLIs, if you use, node is a CLI over here, right? There's a command line interface that lets me run some JavaScript code. They give you this helper text also. How can I create a similar CLI that accepts some options, that accepts some arguments, that I can, show the user some helper text for as well? This is a common use case to create a CLI. Most languages, Rust, Node.js, will have some library that lets you create these CLIs. One such library is this commander.js in Node.js that lets you create this CLI. Can you try to write a quick one? The assignment says create a command line interface that lets users specify a path to a file, and the Node.js process counts the number of words in it. Don't use an AI to code it. This is the documentation page of this specific CLI. Try to read through it, try to understand it, and then try to code this specific, use case. I tried to code this before the class without any AI. I copied the code from here. I did do that. I made the changes. I tried to run it. And this code has some small bug. If I run this code, it gives me this error, which is something you're supposed to debug. Take 10 minutes and try to code it. Then I will try to code it myself as well. Let's see if someone can find the solution to the bug as well. If you do, quickly create a Notion doc and put the solution there. I would love to see it. But either way, hopefully you understand. By the end of it, I should be able to write something like this: node space index.js space a file path. Let's say, file.txt. And it should print out. Already have the code here. It should print out, you have 10 words in this file or you have 20 words in this file, whatever the number of words is. All right, cool. I will look at Q&A until then. So most of you can code, but let me see if someone has any questions. Is Git Bash same as WSL for Windows? No, they're different things. Git Bash lets you interface with your machine using Bash commands. WSL is, as the name suggests, Windows Subsystem Linux. That gives you some more extra things. It's heavier to install. It's more expensive. By expensive, I mean more difficult to install. Git Bash you download like this. So for the purpose of this cohort, yes, Git Bash is good enough, and whatever Git Bash, whatever WSL gives you, you will get the same things slash functionalities in Git Bash. Assignment one: the code looks good to me, but the way you should run this is different. It could be that. I just ran this very quickly. Let's see. So the bug says no. Code looks right to me as well, but I see this bug locally. I don't think I'm giving it the wrong arguments, am I? Oh yeah, I did not give it a file. Oh, you're right. That might just be it. My bad. So there is no bug. You're right. I just forgot to give it the argument. Node index.js if I run this. Nah. Actually, that might be it. Let me quickly try this out locally. npm install commander node index.js -h. There you go. It does work. If I run node index.js -h, it shows me this is the commands that I can run, which takes a file as an input. And if I run node index.js only, that also works. And if I give it a path, uh, count. It does work for me locally now. I don't know why. I don't know why I was seeing this. Sorry, guys. Um, Seems like it works. I don't know why it was not working for me locally. Alrighty, but don't look at the code. Try to code it yourself. Slides link. Please post the Notion doc. Okay, posted that a few times. There you go. And if you're able to do this, there's another assignment after this one, which is a little harder, which will create some foundation for tomorrow. But it's basically to create a CLI that lets you, add a to do, something like this: node index.js to do dash add, or whatever, add go to gym. Maybe add some time here as well as the second argument, and then delete go to gym, and then or maybe the ID, and then update go to gym to be something like go to class. So it's another CLI that supports these three. It's a weird assignment, so don't feel free to not do it as well, because no one is going to create a to-do application like this. The reason it's good to do is because it'll teach you how to store user data inside files. Eventually you will have a file.json here where you'll store okay, an array which has ID one and no, to do, yeah, whatever, buy milk. And then as more to-dos are added, this gets populated, and if they are deleted, this file gets deleted. So you need to make sure, okay, all the to-dos that come from this CLI end up in a file like this called file.json, which is why this is a slightly weird use case to code. And the thing that will teach you is how to integrate the FS library over here to read and write to files from time to time, which is not too difficult. So feel free to code it. I'm looking at Q&A until 9:30, and then I'll code this a little bit, and then um, we will doubts after that. So like if you understand everything, feel free to drop off. All right, let's look at Q&A. JavaScript बस इतना ही था. How much JavaScript should we know? Uh, JavaScript specifically, what you know is good enough. TypeScript will introduce a bunch of other things like interfaces, types, how do you implement interfaces, a bunch of things that are cleaner ways to write JavaScript. But JavaScript syntax is good enough. If you know this much syntax, you can start to use any library and create applications. So in assignment one, you have to install the command library. That is correct. That is exactly true. That is exactly what I did locally. If you look at my package.json, it now has the commander library. You have to install the commander library. You have to use it over here to write some code, which I've already written over here. Um, at the end of the class, please help me with this code. Oh, I can't even copy it. When did we learn Tailwind? Oh, after React, most probably. Yeah, after React. We learned Tailwind after React. You know, this looks right. There's nothing wrong in this. I mean, at least looking at it, there might be a bug, but first looks, this looks perfect. What's the difference between Thenable and Promise? What is Thenable? Thenable in JS. ये तो मैं पहली बार सुन रहा हूँ यार. Let's see what Thenables are. In JavaScript, Thenable is an object that has a then function. All promises are Thenables, but not all Thenables are promise. So your answer is right here. Anything on which you can call a dot then is what as the name suggests, is a Thenable. Now every promise pay you can call dot then, which is why every promise is a Thenable, but not every Thenable is a promise. So the question is, what are the Thenables that are not promises? There is a function on fulfill set on this thing. P equal to promise dot resolve Thenable. Trying to look for a simple one so I can understand and explain as well. Const Thenable equal to then, which is a function which takes on fulfilled as an input, which calls on fulfilled after this. Await Thenable. Okay, this works. Sorry, I'm just going off topic here just for a second. You can call await on not just promises, but these thing called Thenables, which basically is something that returns a dot then. Let's see. Let's call main over here. Node index.js. On fulfilled. Hello world. Huh. Increase this to thousands. Seems like promises aren't the only way to use async await. You can use async await if you create a thenable as well. What is a thenable? An object that has a key called dot then, which is a function that takes, another function as an input. It's very similar to a promise. It's just another way to create a promise. The only thing is it doesn't have a catch over here, which I'm sure you can add that as well. But yeah, as the name suggests, every promise is a thenable. I learned something new today. Every thenable is not a promise, and I'm assuming this, so you can definitely call, right? I'm assuming ये तो तुम देख के बता सकते हो कि यार thenable has a function called dot then. So I can just call this very similar to how we've been calling um, promises until now. But the cool thing here is you can also await this, even though this isn't a promise. This is just a thenable. If I log this variable, you will see it just says it is an object which has a then key, which is a function. If I log a promise, const promise, the new promise. If I log this, it logs, an object of this promise class. But if you log a thenable, it's just another object that has a key called then. That is all that a thenable is. if there was no concept of async await function, then तो I wouldn't even have looked at the enable कि क्या होते हैं, ठीक है, this is just another object that has a dot then key जहाँ पे आप कुछ भी डालो, in case this is a function which takes something that eventually gets called as an input, very similar to promises. But what made me intrigued is here you can use async await syntax here as well on this enable, and then whatever code you are supposed to do in the dot, then you can actually put it afterwards. Because as I've said before, async await syntax is just syntactic sugar on top of promises. But I think more technically, async await syntax is just syntactic sugar on top of denables and not promises. Great find, sir. इस पे तो bounty बनती है, $50 bounty to our friend for introducing me and to the world. A lot of people. Our friend, whose name I can't find now, but you know who you are. Um, if you say npm is not defined, you will have to install npm locally. Most of the times it comes bundled with Node.js, but you'll have to figure that out and try to install Node.js locally. Latest slide is just, if you look at the last slide, it's just an assignment for you to solve. I would ignore, what's wrong with this code because there is nothing wrong in this code, but try to code this assignment yourself. Benefit of using Node.js instead of other backends. Same front technology on the front end and the back end. Easier to write code because it's not type safe. Does not enforce a lot of type safety on you. You can change types. You don't have to give types. These are the benefits. These are also downsides. A language should not be type safe or should be type safe. Golang is better. Rust is better. They are faster. So pros and cons on using any language. All right. Open a few Notion docs. Not understand the assignment question. Okay, let me just solve the assignment questions. We'll go from there. Let me finish the assignment so people can drop off if they want to. The assignment was to create a command line interface. Here's what is a command line interface. As you saw, Node is a command line interface. What makes it a command line interface is it takes some arguments over here. For example, index.js is an argument and it does something when I run this command. When I run this command, it runs the index.js file. The assignment was, so one more thing you will notice about the CLI is, it gives you some extra things. For example, if you run node-h, it gives you all the usage of this Node.js library. Kya is Node.js library mein na, you can pass it some options. For example, we passed the experimental modules option a while back. If you remember, what did we run? We ran node space dash experimental modules index.mjs. We added an option before we actually gave the last argument. So when I ran node-h, what did it tell me? It said node, that is the first thing you can add. You can add a bunch of these options over here. And then in the end, you add a script. And if you want, you can add some extra arguments in the end. That is how you use this Node.js CLI. To you, I asked, create a similar command line interface that looks like this. Node index.js ko ek maan lo, ek bari ko. This is the, let's say, somehow you will combine this and create your own CLI. But assume this is your own new CLI called, whatever, count words or file system access or something like that. Why is it called this? Because it takes only one argument as an input, which is a file path. You give it a file path, it counts the number of words in it. So, अगर मैंने एक file बना ली, if I create, a.txt file, which has, hi there, my name is Harkirat. How many words does it have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then if I ask you to write the code to just read the file and print the number of words on screen, how would you do it? Function, let's say main. What is this function supposed to do? It is supposed to read the file, fs dot. What is it supposed to do? Fs dot read file. Whatever the file name is, let's take that as an input. And then what will I say? I will say, read the file. And then is data में कितने words हैं? How can we count? How can we count the number of words in, let's say, hello space world? There are various ways. I can count the number of spaces. That is the number of words, right? So I can be like, for let I equal to 0, I less than data dot length. I plus plus. If data of I is equal to, the space variable, then I can do total plus plus. And then in the end, I can do a console.log total. That is how I can write the code that reads the file and prints the total number of words. Let's see if it works or not. It prints 0 over here. Data of I is this. Oh, I forgot one thing. UTF-8. I forgot to read the file in UTF-8. It was reading a bunch of bytes. Now it is fine. Let me remove this. It prints 5 over here. If you look at it, how many words do we have inside? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. That is totally right. If there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces, that means we have 6 words. That's exactly what's it should be something like this. Basically, you get the idea. There are also better algorithms to do the same thing. If you remember the split function, you can do this in one line. I'm not going there. I'm keeping the algorithm fairly simple. All right. Do we understand this code? Only then can we move to a CLI. Do we understand how can you read a file and how can you print the total number of words? And the total number of words are nothing but total number of spaces plus one. If there are 2 words, there will be 1 space in the middle. So total number of spaces plus 1 is the total number of words. 91% understand this. Now the problem is, okay, if I am a new developer, actually the first problem is I can't give the word as an input over, sorry, the file as an input. I cannot be like node index.js. The file that you're supposed to, print is slash users slash Harkirat Singh slash Harkirat class node slash a.txt. I cannot give the file dynamically. I actually can. Whenever you give some extra arguments over here, you can have access to them in process.argv. Process.arguments will give you access to whatever you have written over here. If you see, the very first argument is node. The second argument is index.js. Node, index.js. And what is the third argument? It is whatever I have written over here. If I write node index.js, Harkirat is funny, then what do I see printed? Node, more specifically, node ka actual path, index.js ka actual path, and then Harkirat is funny. So this third argument over here, I can get access to here. So I can make this dynamic. I can, rather than yahan pe being a.txt, I can write something like this. Process.arg of 2. Hai na? What will this do? Now I can do something like this. Okay, node index.js, and this is what you're supposed to count the number of variables on. If I run this, I see 6 over here. If I create a b.txt file, which just has hi there here, and if I place this argument with b.txt, it prints 2 over here. So I've almost created a CLI. This node index.js now almost acts like a command line interface because I can give it a bunch of arguments over here. The only problem is I can't ask it, I need some help. Can you tell me, what all commands do you support? This isn't dynamic. I cannot be like node index.js, count words, and then this. And then, in the future, I might need count letters and do this. You can add some ad hoc logic here, let's say one by one. You can, totally, if you want, you can create your CLI yourself. You don't need an external library like Commander. But the external library gives you some easy, syntax specific. The biggest thing it gives you is, it automatically adds this helper function over there so that, just like this node CLI gives you all the help that you need in the world, your own command line interface will also have this, -h flag that people can pass and see everything that your CLI supports. That is why you might want to use an external library. As you saw, you can create it without an external library as well. I have sort of created a CLI, right? I've created a command line interface where people come, they run such a command, node index.js, this is my CLI. If you join both of them together, this is my command line interface. And then This is my, first argument that I'm giving it. If I give it b.txt, it prints the number of words here. If I give it a.txt, it prints the number of words here. The problem is, it doesn't have some things that CLIs have. If I give it dash help, if I ask it here, help me, what all do you support? Command line interface. It gives me nothing. It, starts to run the logic for this, assuming this is the file path. That is where a library like Commander comes into the picture. If you use a library like Commander, what does it do? It lets you create CLIs quickly. First, you import this command variable, which, as you can guess, it is a class. How do I know it is a class? Because I'm writing new command over here. So I import a class, I create a new program, I give it a name, I give it a description, I give it a version, and then I call, here you're going to have the very first command called count. I can add multiple commands here. I can add, or, let's say this is count words. I can in the future add count letters. I can add multiple commands that this CLI supports. Right now, I'm adding just a single command called, let's say, count, or count letters, doesn't matter, count words. And what does this do? This is the description of count words. It will count the number of words in a file. This is the single argument that it expects for now a file. You get access to the file over here. You read the file. This is a slightly, simpler syntax to find the number of words in a slide. I repeat, if you add /n, that will give you the number of sentences. The original code over here is to count the number of lines in a file, line 1, line 2, line 3. The code that I am writing now is to count the number of words, which is why I replace the /n with space. If you did not understand what is /n, Harkirat, what is space, what is split, you can write the old logic we had, right? The old logic that we had did what? Let words equal to 0, or let I equal to 0, I less than, whatever, data dot length, I plus plus. If data of I equal to space, then what did we do? We did a words plus plus, and then we print there are words plus 1 line words in this file. So I've written very similar code, only I am using this external program library. Why am I using this external program library? Firstly, does the same thing? Is it able to do the same thing? Let's see. If I run node index.js space, what was the file path? This one right here. It will not do because it says unknown command this thing. I first have to give it a command, which in my case is, what was the command that we registered? We registered the count command. So I will use my CLI like this. Node index.js count the number of words in this. If I replace this with a.txt, it says there are 6 words in this. You might say, Harkirat, this looks very similar to what we wrote a while back. Yes. But number one, it supports multiple commands. Kal ko I can add a new command here. I can register a new command called count underscore words, or sentences. And yahan pe, as I told you, if you replace with this with a /n, that will count the number of sentences. Why? We can discuss what this /n is, and how does this, if you count the number of /n's, that will be the number of lines in your file. But now if I run node index.js count, it gives me the count of the words. Sentences. If I run node index.js, what was the other command that I added? Count underscore sentences. So if I run this, it'll count and say there are 2 sentences in a.txt. If you look at a.txt, it just has one sentence, but in the end, there's a /n here. So, just replace this with words, and that'll work rather than having words.1. All right. The other thing it gives you is the help command comes out of the box. If I run node index.js -h, it gives me a very pretty CLI like interface. This is, the biggest reason you might want to use Commander. Okay, whoever is using your command line interface now gets a -help flag that they can run, and they can see, acha, this is one command that I can run here. This is another command that I can run here. Very similar to node-h. This will give me all the helper function for the node command line interface. And if I run node index.js -h, it gives me all the helper functions for my command line interface, the one that I have created. I should probably be called file related, CLI, or you can give it a better name, uh, which does two things right now, count underscore words and count underscore sentences. You can add more things over here. Let's do a poll. Was this clear? Do we sort of understand the commander library? Do we properly understand the commander library, how it is used to create command line interfaces? Sort of. 75%. The 76%, I would say, perfect time to drop off and maybe do the next assignment. 4%. Let me recap everything I wrote a while back. Let me go through this one more time. I give you a problem statement. I repeat, I give you a problem statement. The problem statement is create a Node.js program that lets you read through the files through a file that it takes as an input and counts the number of words in it. Okay? This is the problem statement that I gave you. The solution that you gave me was this. Okay, Harkirat, a minute. We wrote this a while back, so let me just command Z my way to it. And that 90% understood. That code looked something like this. This code 90% understood. Okay, हाँ ठीक है भाई Harkirat, you're calling a main function. You give it process.arg of 2. You give it the second argument as input. If the command was node index.js slash users slash Harkirat Singh slash a.txt, let's say, then process.arg of 2 gets replaced by this. This is process.args of 0. This is process.args of 1. This is process.args of 2. This gets replaced with this. This comes in here as an argument. You read the file. You get the data. You iterate over all the data. You find the number of spaces. The number of spaces that you have plus 1 is the total number of words that you have. If the file had hello space world in it, then if the number of spaces here is 1, the number of words here is 2. So you add 1 to it. If the number of spaces here was 2, then the number of words here was 3. This isn't, and this gets more complicated if you have multiple spaces here. So, you should account for those use cases. What if there are spaces at the end? What if there are spaces in the beginning? But we're keeping it simple over here. This to everyone understands. Step 1, what is the problem here? The problem is if I run node index.js -h, it does nothing. Oh, need to replace this with process.arg of 2. If I run node index.js -h, it just takes -h as an argument. यहाँ पे -h आ जाता है. That is not a file. fs.read file cannot read -h, which is why the command fails. Why am I forcing, in putting so much attention on -h? Because any command line interface, or most of the good ones, would give you this -h functionality. They would let you see. -h means help. Okay, help me. What is the usage of this node library? And then, as you can see, it very well tells you, okay, our node library will take some options as an input, a script as an input, some arguments as an input. That is how you run the Node.js library. It also tells you can run node inspect some options, script.js, where you want to inspect your Node.js code, so on and so forth. These are the two commands that it gives you. It gives you a bunch of options over here. Very nice helper text to look at. मैंने बोला तुम्हें भी ये बनाना है. You also have to make the same thing. Now you can do a bunch of math here. कि यार, if process.arg of 2 equal to -h, then I will do this, else I will do rest of the logic. You can do this, and write this yourself. But why not use something that, does this out of the box? Why not use a library that does all of this for you? What is that library? The library is called Commander. If you look at this, or if you look at this, our code that we had written, what does the code say? Okay, I'm going to initialize a program. I'm going to initialize a program जिसका नाम ये है, description ये है, some version also I've attached to it. And I'm registering the first command here. Program.command count underscore sentences. This will count the number of sentences that the first argument has. It says I have an argument called file, which is the file where I want to count the number of lines and the action. What happens when this CLI is called by the user? What happens when the user says CLI or whatever program underscore counter space slash users slash Harkirat slash a.txt? What should happen? Control will reach here. The file will come as the first argument over here. The first argument that the user gives comes as the argument over here. And then the logic inside is the same, right? This is slightly different logic. If you've done the assignments, then you already know what this split function does. It is used for something similar in the assignments. But this will basically, convert the string. Let's say there's a string Harkirat space sing. It will convert it to an array and split it based on this space over here. So it'll convert it into an array. If you take the length of this array, that's the number of words that you have. That is how this, line of code over here gets the number of words. Then it prints there are X number of lines in this file, which is the number of words over here. You can also write the other logic. Why this is useful is because यार तुमने ये external library use कर ली, and now this external library wrote all the CLI logic for you. Okay, now if anyone does node index.js -h, they will see here we have a command called count sentences we can learn. So let me run count underscore sentences, and they can go from there. Any CLI that you write should have this -h flag that lets the user see all the commands that it has, and this library creates it for you out of the box. You might ask, here, this doesn't look like a CLI right now. Node index.js, I am not writing count underscore words space or words CLI count underscore sentences and then this. आप कह रहे हो this is a CLI command line interface, but I have to write node index.js. So you can convert this node index.js into a binary that looks like this. It's called world CLI, and you can just run that. If you want to try this out, very quickly, you can also do this. You can add an alias node index alias world CLI equal to node index.js. Now if I run world CLI space -h, it tells me कि जो आपकी नई CLI बनाई है ना आपने नया command line interface, these are the commands that it supports. Either help, which we're already seeing, or count sentences. If I run help, it will give me the same thing. If I run count underscore sentences and give it a path, whatever that path is, it'll count the number of words there. All right, cool. That's what a CLI is. Hopefully that was clear. Let's do a quick poll. We'll go from there. Let's do poll/quizzes. Launch a poll. Do we understand how can you create your own command line interface in Node.js? Yes or no? Great. 95%. It's slowly going towards 90%. Beautifulish. Beauty. Foolish. Not foolish. Beautiful. Let's call it here, guys. For the people who did understand. For the people who have any questions, I'm going to now answer them in the normal chat. So please come to the normal chat and please paste the questions here. I'll answer them. All right. We have 100 questions. We'll start from the top. Please take session on Git GitHub on basics in depth. I was confused how to submit the assignment on GitHub repo and win bounties. Sure. Assignment should not be submitted on GitHub anyways. So even if you don't learn GitHub, don't do it. And winning bounties also requires you to write a lot of code, at least, depends on what kind of bounty you're talking about here. But yeah, it requires you to write some code and then create a PR. But either way, yeah, a video on GitHub is coming. All right, Notion doc, questions, assignment 2 solution. Someone added this, another Notion doc, another Notion doc, few more Notion docs, Notion doc. All right. Please upload Bangalore workshop videos. We are slowly. They're being edited right now. Yeah, just post. There are many ways to run, require syntax using for that specific library. Chalk, whatever your solution is, just post it. Would love to see it. Few projects in Vanilla.js, that's nice. Notion doc. Notion doc. I love that you guys are so organized now. You're posting Notion docs. Easier for me as well. Why are there multiple logs instead of one log? And which package manager should you use? You should use the latest one. Don't use npm. So probably use yarn or bun. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yarn, bun, or pnpm. Either is fine. We are slowly moving all our repos to pnpm. But yeah, feel free to pick anyone. All right. Few people have added a few repositories. I love that there are no questions really, just a bunch of Notion docs. I'm just opening them one by one and then happy to look at all of them. Um, Please take a second answer that. Hi Kirat, what's up? NPM registry equal to NPM package registry, like NPM official website. Uh, npmjs.org, this specific website. Yes, it is like a package registry, just like there's a Docker registry to push Docker images, just like there's GitHub to push your source code. There is the NPM registry to push, your NPM modules. What's the difference between MJS and JS? MJS lets you, write some experimental modules. You don't have to worry about that because we will not use it at all. We will slowly migrate to TypeScript, and over there everything will work. Official solution of the hard week two offline videos incomplete slides. Official solutions of the hard week two offline video. What can you, Akash, just make note of it. I don't know what that exact question is. But yeah. Why are you currently in the States? No, this is Bangalore. By the way, someone created an npm library to find if a given number is order even. Can you try that for the class? You don't want to use import. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. What's it called? Is it called is even? I think that's what it's called, right? Is even or is dash even? Is dash even. So you can use this. Don't use this. You can write this logic yourself. But as someone said, there is another library called is dash even that you can use. If I do an npm install, you don't need dash dash save anymore. So npm install is dash even. It adds the specific library here. If I add what's the syntax again, where or whatever const is even equal to is dash even and run it, it'll just, as you can guess, for is even zero it'll print true, for one it'll print false. So right, cool. Let's open chat again. Why? Okay, answer that. Hard hai. I thought this was hopefully like 90% understood, which means it's not very hard if you spend some time. So please teach brute forcing web scraping using Node.js. Please ask. Can ask. I mean, I can ask them. Like, it'll not be free. Let me ask them. Well, I can just upload them, right? I can be an asshole and just upload their videos, but I'll have to ask them. If it's not too expensive, I'm happy to just add. All right. This trying to just look at all the vanilla questions. All right. Time for some Notion docs. I will look. Oh, okay. Let's see if it's easy enough. If he approved it, he will. Oh, this one. Hmm. Well, he did approve it, so I haven't tried it, which is I don't want to merge it. I don't know where this code works. Who has access to create the events? Let's see. I can just read through it. I don't see any changes in slash admin, which makes me a little anxious. Can anyone add this event? Event dot create add class from August to May. What is that function name, bro? Oh, it's in C.S. Never mind. Sorry. Event dot create. All right, there we go. So this add event function is called where? It's called here in this calendar.tsx. Uh, why is this landing page? Not that it doesn't matter. Very small thing. Um, the point is, where is this imported calendar. App calendar page.tsx. Okay, it is that. But why is this called landing page, sir? Should be called the calendar page. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's like I'm being a bad. I mean, I don't know. It's fine. I can merge it like this also. Like just fix it. It's like a 1 second fix. Um, or it is admin restricted, so that's the only thing I wanted to check if I'm being honest. But usually, all the admin pages are at slash admin. Maybe one more thing would be not here, but here, source app, move this to slash admin slash calendar. Then that looks good. As soon as you fix this, maybe just fix this before the class ends and I'll merge it. All right. You have a few screenshots. What is this? Feature full authentic. Oh, what is this? Also, app review test website. All right. UI looks decent. I wouldn't say great, but like, take we'll connect you to a designer. Don't worry. Yeah, this looks good. Can you deploy it? Do you have a live link? Exams, take it. Yeah, let me talk, like connect you to a designer slash, this can be the first iteration of the code. Let's make it a little bit prettier. Just finish the PR really quickly. As soon as you do the changes, just comment, I'll merge it. All right. Aptitude test JE, we'll also maybe deploy it. So, we can see, everyone can see it. Oh, one more thing I want to see here is where does this render for the user? Yeah, where does this render for the user? Seems like you have this on an admin page, but which other page does the user, where does the user see it on? Just comment that as well. All right. I don't see any changes to, app slash, I don't know, calendar slash user. Okay, hold on. Is there this thing? Oh, never mind. Same component where is admin user flag. Sorry about that. And based on this flag, what are you doing? Actually, the first thing I need to check is your event safe enough? This will tell me, are you ready for a referral or not? And is Sargam a good reviewer or not? You are. That's fine. Good. I mean, it's a bare minimum, but like you get the idea. A lot of people miss this as well. Cool, man. Just finish this off and I'll merge it. Someone else also created the J website. Let's see. Don't over optimize on design, guys. Uh, oh, okay. Let's see. See a clock. I see a few questions. The UI also. Why has few people have created very similar UIs? Is this some AI that everyone's using? And it looks everyone's code looks very ugly. Oh, sorry, UI looks very ugly, not the code. And this also looks like that. Are you guys using UI? Is AIs to code? I don't know. Let's see. Did I log in here already? Oh, this is the same one. That's why I'm already logged in here. So, yeah. Yeah, so you need to fix the UI. I think I already told this, but yeah, make the UI better. What is happening here? I click here. You get the idea. Polish it up. Polishes matter more than the functionality. This is a very easy website to build. The person who's polished it the most will, win. Himanshu Malvia, your page is restricted. I answer that. What is this? Contains lecture code. So let's see. I like it. We need a place where everyone's such public codes are, I guess this is more for you, right? I don't think anyone can learn. I don't know. Maybe people do learn from this. At least the web solutions people will be able to, learn a lot from. So happy to link this to the website somewhere and, keep at it for all the upcoming weeks as well. The to-do CLI looks good. Only it's very hard for me to read, but I would assume it looks right. Um, Feedback on 3.2 project documentation state and components. All right, let's see. Looks decent. To do. Well, yeah, he polishes. You get the idea, right? The world is moving so fast. Ke I mean, if you're a new coder, it's totally fine. But uh, polishes matter a lot. This is great, but you can style it better, all that jazz. Other than yes, there's no feedback other than polish it more. Dazzle me, doesn't dazzle me at the moment because I've seen 100 to do applications now. But good for your own learning. Great if this is the first time you're doing DOM manipulation, right? Off topic, please release the syllabus for Super 30. Very interested. Living in Pune. Got it. Yeah, hopefully it comes out at least for cohort 3 people. Hopefully for everyone. I don't know. It's very hard to predict that right now, but it's getting there. We found a place today, so let's see. Modified the count letters only. Modify it to count letters only. Yeah, that looks good. Why do you have the rejects? Count letters only. Data dot replace this thing dot length. There are the letters. Letter count. Why did you not do data dot length? What do you mean by? Is it like only a certain? Okay, there. Maybe it's like certain letters. I don't know what this exact rejects is. It looks like only filters for A's and Z's and capital A's and capital Z's. So you're just counting for the letters and not spaces and other things. Sounds good. I'm building something that'll be helpful to code students. Can I use Notion doc that look in the live class? Like if user clicks on the slide button, the user will be redirected to that specific Notion slide page. Yeah, you can use that. And for aptitude project, can we use React? You can use React as long as it is polished, but preferably use Next only. The thing that gets merged will probably be Next. And does we have to need to fork the repo for aptitude test project, or we can create without forking it? You will have to fork it. I mean, create one version that is very good locally, like on your own machine, and then if it's good, you can. Uh, oh wow, that's good, decent. Yeah, pretty good. Uh, Not bad. Like add some kind of things here. Great for a first starter project. Did you clone another website? Um, yeah, the buttons look a little weird. You get the idea. It doesn't convert into a pointer. Very obviously, even though I'm not a designer, I can see there's more padding at the bottom, less padding on the top, things like these. But yeah, great start. For a beginner, don't feel discouraged when I see these things. It's great. For the advanced people, market is competitive. So, you need to dazzle. Um, Created the to-do CLI, clone it and use it from README might have some error. Created the to-do CLI, clone it and use it locally from README. Oh, this looks good. This is exactly what we needed. I'm sure the code that you've written is perfect as well. Super 30. Oh, babre. Okay, your ideas for Super 30. Let's come to this after we finish the rest of the questions. Sounds pretty interesting, but again, sounds like something I'm too old for to follow such a schedule. This looks good. Answered. Answered. Please, due to some issues, I missed part of internal package. Could you recap? That's very simple. Look at the recorded, you'll get understand it immediately. Okay, done. There you go. To do CLI, load to dos. Yeah, that looks exactly like what was needed. Perfect. All right. This is a quite ambitious initiative by you for. Okay, to begin with, I don't know why people assume it's for underprivileged students. It's not necessary. I don't think finances will have anything to do with who gets in. Um, I didn't write that. I did not write this either. Few assumptions here. In order to make this initiative successful, for the students to become capable. Oh boy, did you make this write through this through like GPT? There can be schedule under the mentor's vision who can lead by example. Some basic set of rules. No mobile phones allowed for students. I think it's a little too much of a thing to do. Yeah, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can expect students to do that. So we practice coding in common workspace under common networks. This will happen. But social media, I don't know about this either. Dude, this sounds like a college. I think if people don't want to do something or want to do something, they should be allowed to do that. What is this? People should be allowed. Well, sir, uh, I mean, this might be a good idea. It sounds like you're in NDA or something. If this happens, and this is cool, but I'm not myself organized enough to follow it. I don't know if people would be. I think coding is something you can be the, scrappiest, most unhygienic, pathetic drug addict, yet do it fairly well. So I don't think you need restrictions like these. The best developers are on Adderall all the time. So uh, appreciate the effort. Met someone, recently as well who I appreciate and admire a lot. He doesn't. He's also very like this only brand of that is a prerequisite to become a great developer. And also I don't think I can enforce any of these. All right, more questions. Is Next.js or JS runtime as well? Next.js uses Node.js under the hood? It is not a separate Node.js runtime. Bun is a Node.js runtime. Uh, Node is a Node.js runtime. Node.js is a JavaScript runtime. Bun is a JavaScript runtime. Next.js is not a JavaScript runtime. I made a terminal portfolio. Okay, GitHub. So questions. Like there are no questions. There's just everyone wants to show their projects, which is very cool. Why using Zoom for live? Why not build your own? And only core students have access. We can try. It's expensive. That is why you don't do it. Long story short, it's expensive. And number two, it's very hard to scale for, let's say, 1,000 people. Number three, I had this, it skipped my head. What was number three? It's very hard to scale. It is expensive. If you make it in a way where it is reliable and not expensive, even though then also it is more expensive than Zoom, there is very high latency, which is why Zoom just does the job. Trust me, I've tried this many times, built this many times for many clients and realized this is the most optimal way to do teaching while live. We can try to build it. As I said, I've built this many times, but this is the cheapest way for this specific scale. Why are we using Zoom? Okay, answer that. Please check out my to-do application. Uh, how does your command line autocomplete in the terminal? I have something which I forgot what it was. Um, I will have to check. Google it a bit. Ask GPT. It'll tell you what this is. Nice, nice. This one's polished. You look at it and you're like, how do you edit it? How do you edit? Edit. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Or lets you create collection. Pretty cool. This is nice because you've thought through some UX, which I like. You've created uh whatever these are, collections, sections. Yeah, dazzled. Is all I will say. Pretty cool. All right. We should like open source a lot of these. Visual Student in Delhi as well. Yeah, that's another thing I'm conflicted about. Nothing is final at the moment. But it's easier to find other people that you can talk to here in Bangalore compared to Delhi. If it happens in NCR, it'll probably happen in Noida or um, Gurgaon. All right. Please do. Okay, terminal portfolio sounds great. Few more questions. Few more questions. Few more questions. Notion doc. Mint feature inside. That sounds great. All right. Done with all of these. Let's open them up. Sorry. Hello, sir. I need understanding JS code. Your Notion page isn't accessible. Please make it public. Patent developer issues with recoil to stand. Code student, I was following along with the monorepo videos. I was able to bootstrap most of the stuff. When I reached the recoil store, stuff started breaking. I was able to solve the type issue you mentioned in the slide. But as I said, but it said recoil root not present, even after I added the providers. And check it is being added correctly in layout.tsx. Okay, that would have been my first guess, but you said you already done that. After no log, I shift to Zoostand. That was not working either. I saw the state, but the hook to update it was not working. It's an invalid hook call. Probably that's another issue in Next.js note. Like 19 daily code uses React 18. I'm getting this invalid hook call. Hook can link inside the body of a functional component. So this though is a fairly obvious, not obvious, like it's telling you what you're doing wrong. You can't call a hook inside a function that doesn't start with use. So you are probably, we can read through it. Um, Increase balance. How do you increase balance in your code? Let's see. Merchant. Uh, Start locally. Which one of these should I start locally? Increase balance. balance uh, amount equal to export default function balance. So this looks like a component which is using a hook. Where was this thrown button? Oh, there you go. That's the problem right here, sir. What are you doing here? Can you tell me what the problem is here? What is the problem here? आप ही बताओ चलो. What's your name? I can't find it here. Oh yeah. What is the problem in this line of code? You are defining a native normal function that is using a hook. You can't call a hook inside a native function. You can never have a function that has this use anything call unless it is a hook yourself. So the problem that you have over here is you are using the use balances store hook inside another function, which is, not a hook. That is exactly what the error over here is also telling you. Hooks can only be used inside the body of a functional component. You are using the hook inside the functional component here, but यहाँ पे this hook is not being used inside this functional component. It's being used inside this native function, which is why this error is coming. This is a fairly this thing this error should immediately lead you to thinking, "Acha, this is what you've done wrong over here." Now, how to fix this is a different question, but hopefully you understand what is the error over here. All right, Notion docs. You have Notion docs already. Uh, let's look at your code, the calendar code, sir, and then we can start to. Uh, yeah, I can't find it now. Uh, this is yours? Yeah, that is yours, right? Have you fixed the issues? Rename calendar page. Um, yeah, looks good. Let me review this one more time. You have a schema update called event. And when the user goes to the calendar page, which is this page right here, we render this component, which this isn't. So one thing you should change is, this component shouldn't have all the admin logic. It is there right now and it's fine, but you should have a separate component for the users. For now, it'll merge. No, I'll merge. Don't worry about it. But eventually, you should fix that. So I have a bunch of dialogues. Where is the calendar actually rendering? Main and logic cards, which has this calendar. Where do you have these are the events? All right. And where do the events come from? Again, you should use like some sort of an async function call here. This is fine for now, but you shouldn't. Since you're using Next.js, you can just load this directly on the server, which you're not doing, right? You have it inside an effect. Let me see this first. Fetch events, set events. So there's one big problem here. Cohort 3 students, cohort 2 students, other people, everyone will have their own. This is like a cohort 3 calendar. It's fine. We'll merge this in for now. But cohort 2 students will also start to see the cohort 3 calendar. People who have the web dev cohort will start to see web 3 calendar. So the schema needs to have, what all courses is this event relevant for? So when the admin is adding events, it'll add, this course is relevant for this, and this. It's okay. You can add it as a follow up. For now, I'll merge it, but I'll protect this page for now. By which I mean, we'll not add anything here for now. We'll go from there. You already had the bounty, right? But like, I'll reiterate it: $100 bounty. Uh, there are some follow-ups that are needed, which someone can pick up. Or, I'm happy. I probably have to do it myself. There's a lot of very weird logic we've written to separate code 2 from code 3. Um, so yeah, I'll probably do that. Thank you everyone for joining. Interesting class. I will see you guys tomorrow where we understand a little bit of HTTP servers, Node.js, and go from there. A lot of more slides. Okay. Oh, Notion doesn't open from this chat. Notion. One last round I will do, then I'll call it. My Notion docs. One private, please. Sorry अगर गलत लिखा है तो. Oh, okay. I will look at this. I already saw this one. Already saw this one. Already saw this one. Hi, I'm Himanshu again. I've built a feature called Soul Bound to my project Soul Bounty. Based on your suggestion, give your page yesterday. Okay, got it. Do have a look. All right. Let's see. What is that? How do you have this popping up on top of a GitHub page? What is happening here? I see the UI. How does this work? Do you have a Chrome extension? How does this pop up on top of a GitHub page? I don't get it. This is great UX. Even if this is an extension you have added. Oh yeah. Is that what you've added? I see a bounty button here. Oh boy, it's so good. This is so good. If you do this, you win the. I don't know if there's a better submission, but yes, this is exactly what we did. You merge the PR, immediately click on bounty, give the person a bounty. And maybe when the user comes, they see a claim button to claim the bounty. Beautiful. Love it. But you've not mentioned if this is an extension. I would assume that's what it is. Nice. It gives us a way to bootstrap extensions to people, which can probably be a wallet. Never mind. I'm thinking too deep right now. Sorry, people don't see what I'm seeing, right? Oh. He built this. Most probably it's an extension, like a Chrome extension, where right next to merge pull request, I see this button called bounty that I can click and give this person some bounty, which is the best way to do it, because what happens is I just assign a bounty, I forget. After a month, person is pinging, sir, $100. So, if I see this button here, I merge. Rather than commenting, I can simply click on this button, assign the bounty, click on send bounty, Phantom would open. I would approve the bounty, send the bounty out. Much easier, 100%, 100 times better UX than this. All right. Great, sir. Amazing. Thank you so much for this one. I want to develop a social media app for my college. And I should use JavaScript. So this probably isn't enough to create a good one. Wait for a few more weeks, understand React, Tailwind, and then create one. Maybe understand Postgres, Prisma, then create one. What is a BAS? That is, I'm hearing this term for the first time. I want the site to have a feed section, a chat section. I also want to revoke access to students that graduate. Okay. Can you guide me a roadmap? So this is a very complex application. I would not pick it up. Pick it up as a test project. Actually, great thing to build. When you have motivation like this, you have to build a sort of college. But guidance is basically, this is a social media application, social network application, which social networks are very difficult to build as you scale. For you, you'll have 1,000 students, so totally fine. Even if